Okay, everybody, welcome to the Village of New Paltz Planning Board regular meeting of Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. We are being live streamed starting here at 7 p.m. And what we've got here for the business agenda is we have some administrative business. Going to have the approval of the August 18 minutes. We're going to have the PA closure letter. The village board is going to give us an Ulster County Planning Board and Environmental Planning Board updates. We'll have comments followed by application review for the amended site plan for the mixed-use building at 51 Main Street. That's PB 1910. We're going to be having the subdivision 1 lot, 2 lots, PB 2008 at 64 Plains, the Discovery Institute, and then finally the site plan for the porch renovation and extension, PB 2009, 5 Taylor Street. I think it was Eve Walter. So with that, let's go in here. Is everybody able to pick up the minutes? Goodness. So are we able to pick up the minutes on? We can have the somebody mute for us, please.
Are we waiting for a motion for the minutes?
Gonna try to pick up my agenda packet here and get onto my drive. Give me just a moment, please.
Sure.
Hear me now?
Yes, I just lost my minutes here. I just have to go back and pick them up.
Neil Collier's here. Is that the question?
No, we're just doing some administrative business first before the application review, Neil.
Okay, I'll mute now.
Thank you.
Shortcut this. Can you send me over the quickly the link to the folder so I can get in there quickly because I'm searching through a lot of things. And can we have everybody mute, please?
John, I think the problem is that some of the people on, not on video, but some people calling in and using their phones to call in are not muting.
I just muted people.
Thank you. Lana, can you send me that over, please?
I just did.
Please, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we have the draft minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at that?
Yes.
The present were Raquel Carrion, acting chair, Dennis McGee, Cody Schatzel, and Zach Bielecki. So with that in mind, may I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's the ayes. They are approved, and there's one abstention, which would be me. I was not present at that meeting. Okay, with that in mind, we are now going to discuss the TA closure letter.
Do you need me to explain what that is, John?
Yeah, if you would please, real quickly, and it's part of our documents that we have in there.
Yeah, so essentially there is just a number of trust and agency accounts. That's where the escrow money goes. For older accounts that the applications are no longer active or they were closed, and I just need approval from the planning board to close those applications, which will then go to the village board, and then the treasury can send that money back to the applicants. And I've checked with, the relevant consultants to make sure there's no more invoices. And that's about it. Not too exciting.
And that includes 16 North Chestnut, the Goodwill Church, 215 Main Street, 10 South Chestnut Street, Bradford, Pencil Hill Road, Caffrey, Water Street, Adele Ruger, and then Church Street on Johnson. So may I have a motion to approve the recommending that the following accounts be closed and that the remaining balances be returned to the applicants?
No motion.
I'm sorry?
So motioned.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so
Aye.
you have the permission for the planning board to close those and return those, send those off to the village board. Okay, so next then we are going to get some village board updates from the Ulster County Planning Board and the Environmental Planning Board. Do we have any members of the Ulster County Planning Board that can provide updates?
Well, there's just one really in the village, and that's me, John, William Murray.
So what's the update with that from the village?
There was nothing up before the county planning board last meeting, so there's really no report on that.
Okay. So for the Environmental Planning Board, Don, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I spoke with the EPB at the last meeting. We spoke about the LALO project coming up. It was agreed that I would give the EPB a summary of the training that the planning board has received on the secret process. There were a couple of questions which were asked of me, which I passed on to Rick with regard to site visits and whether the EPB would be an interested or involved party, which have been answered. So I think we're good to go as far as the next meeting. We'll be talking about the LALO project, and the information I've received in the past two trainings have been very helpful. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. Okay, so that brings us to the public comments. Do we have any public comments? Alana?
Nothing written, and I'm not seeing any activity on the chat.
Okay, so there's no need to open it or close it because we don't have any of those. So we're going to move right on in. Then to the application reviews. Planning Board 1910, 51 Main Street, applicant Dimitri Peters. Do we have anybody that is with Mr. Viglas? Okay, don't hear any of that. Okay, so just to be brief here, let's do a little bit of a review for those members who were not on the board at the time. PB 1910 was a mixed-use building. It's the applicant worked through 2019. The applicant worked his application throughout 2019, coming back to get approval of the site plan. Just quick summary then again is the site plan approval to change the use of the existing 3-story mixed-use building in the B2 core business district. 2018 applicant obtained approval of the amended site plan and special permit expired because no construction or site improvement were initiated during the 12 months following the approval. Current application also includes a change of use from previously approved mixed residential restaurant office to mixed residential office jewelry store. The jewelry store is proposed to be located on the first floor with the storage in the basement. Application was ready for approval in September last year when it was realized that the applicant needed an easement to access the village property at 10 North Chestnut Street to get to 51 Main Street proposed parking spaces, be able to have a garbage pickup and make other deliveries to the building. The Board of Trustees approved the granting of an access easement to the applicant at its meeting on 8/26/20, and the agreement is being finalized. Rick, do you want to weigh in on anything here?
No, you summarized it. So it's up for a resolution. It also had obtained a variance from the ZBA. Given the number of uses for that lot, each use has its own amount of lot area that is required to have it. With those 3 uses, it exceeded the lot area that they had, and so they needed to get a variance from that from the ZBA, and they got that on September 10th of 2019. This is a secret type 2 action because it's a reuse of a permitted residential, commercial, or mixed use structure that doesn't meet the type 1 thresholds. It's exempt from GML 239 review to the Ulster County Planning Board. And the public hearing was set on this and held back in September 17th of 2019. So the application is ready for an approval. A draft resolution was provided to the board.
Thank you. So the resolution of approval says that the planning board of the village of New Paltz, New York, hereby resolves to
The meat starts on page 6, John.
get down to that. So the general conclusion of this resolution of approval is conditioned upon the applicant submitting all necessary and final copies of the plans, reports, and documents to the village of New Paltz building inspector. Further conditioned upon all other approvals that are needed by operation of federal, state, or local laws and regulations, whether or not noted the specific conditions of this resolution, including and but not limited to Army Corps of Engineers, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Health, Village of New Paltz Board of Trustees, in compliance with the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. The site plan, as approved by the planning board, is binding upon the applicant and any subsequent owner. Any changes from the approved plan shall require resubmission and reapproval by the planning board. No deviation from the plans, reports, or other documents that form the basis for this approval are effective unless and until an amendment to this resolution is secured from the planning board in writing. The village may stop work on the project, revoke the building permit, or withhold a certificate of occupancy, or seek any other relief as authorized by law if the resolution is violated. No construction or other site improvements have been initiated at the site during the 12-month period following the site plan approval. The approved plan shall require resubmission and reapproval by the planning board. All fees regarding the application must be paid in full, including all application fees, other fees required by the village code, and fees of the planning board consultants, including all engineering, planning, and legal fees. Bonds and other security required shall be submitted in a timely manner. No building permit may be issued by the building inspector unless and until such fees have been paid in full. Such bonds or other securities shall have been filed by the village. Any bonds necessary for performance shall be in such form and in such amount as required by the village board of trustees, superintendent of village department of public works, and village attorney. Any special use permit not exercised within 1 year of the date of issuance shall expire without further hearing by the planning board. A special use permit shall be deemed to authorize only the special use or uses specified in the approval resolution and shall expire if the authorized special use shall cease for more than 6 months for any reason. So with that in mind,
John?
Yes.
There are also 3 specific conditions at near the top of page 6 that are probably most apt, in addition to the general conditions that you read that are applicable to almost every resolution.
Okay. There are specific conditions. You're correct. It says prior to signing the plans, the applicant shall submit proof of the filing with the Ulster County Clerk of an access easement granted by the village in favor of the owner of 51 Main Street through the village's North Chestnut Municipal Lot for the use of 2 parking spaces on 51 Main Street in such form as is acceptable to the village attorney and the village engineer as necessary. The floor plans are informational and are not being approved by this resolution. The floor plans will require approval by the building inspector. The permeable pavers noted on the plans must be in place and functional before a certificate of occupancy can be issued for any of the building uses. Thank you, Rick, for that. Those are 3 very important items. So with all of this in mind, I'd like to get a resolution to approve this document.
I'm sorry, I just had a few questions about this resolution. Is the site plan, has the site plan already been approved and this resolution is just to change the use of the building to a jewelry mixed use?
There was a prior approval for the site plan, and this is a site plan amendment, and the amendment is, as I recall, only with respect to the change in use.
Okay, so the site plan that was in the drive that showed some of the HVAC equipment out back and parking area, none of that is new for the planning board. That's already been reviewed and approved.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Okay, I understand.
Any other questions by any of the other members? And those are good questions to ask. I appreciate you taking the time to look at that.
I have a question. I'm not a member. Assuming the applicant does all the things he's supposed to do, and that's not a given, is there a timeline for when this building can actually be occupied? How many more hoops are there in the process, I guess, that could get in the way of this building being active?
I don't think we have the applicant here to speak. Is that correct?
That's correct. So that's something that we really can't speak about because he's not here to talk about what his plans are and where he is in those plans. They do have 1 year to begin construction. So
Okay.
the assumption
They
is
have 1 year to, as John said, they have a year to go ahead and after this approval. So it starts from tonight, even though they may not get their signed plans until they go ahead and provide that easement proof of filing with the county that's necessary for them to have access. But they will have a year from tonight to go ahead and start construction of this building. If they don't do that, they can ask for an extension of up to 12 months. And And then if they don't do anything, then it's going to expire.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions by anyone? Okay. So with that in mind, I would like to get a motion to approve this resolution.
So motioned.
And a second, please.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So with that in mind, this resolution has been approved. And Alana, I will be over to sign it probably maybe tomorrow.
Alana, since there's been no changes to it tonight, I assume that you'll be able to put it in final form for John's signature?
Yes. I'm not actually in the office tomorrow, but I'll be in on Thursday. But I actually should be able to do it from home without a problem. I can just have like someone print it and it'll be there for you.
Okay.
Alana, I know we had just approved this resolution, but I just had a thought about the fuel source at 51 Main. I just maybe if we could get last time I remember they didn't have any, and so I was maybe the next time that we talk to the applicant, it would just be. I think that was a question from back when they were in front of us last year. I just, of course, thought about it now.
Yeah, I don't completely remember what the culmination of that thing. Like I remember it being an issue, but I don't remember how it resolved if it did.
Okay, yeah, and I can look back at the old meeting minutes.
Yeah, there was an issue. The gentleman wanted to use propane. And then the last thing that I remember was that he was going to try to tie into natural gas on Main Street. But that's the last thing that I heard. So that's a good question, and I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we are going to move on now to.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to make sure that one of the phones I muted isn't Dimitri, because I did invite him.
Also, Alana, when you take the votes, I think you also muted Dennis.
I did, but he should be able to unmute.
Hi, it's Dimitri.
Oh, hey, Dimitri, there you
Hi,
are.
Dimitri.
Sorry about
How's
that.
it going? Yeah, any questions?
No, don't think there were any questions except for the fuel source. Just to mention.
It's gonna be all electric.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, so no propane, no natural gas, just all electric.
All right. Thank you. So we have approved the resolution, so you should be good to go. Alana,
Thank you.
we'll get something typed up, and if not, when are you in the office next, Alana?
I'll be there Thursday.
Why don't we set it then on Thursday, and I'll come by and sign it then. How does that work?
Is that okay with the variance situation, Rick, or does he need to have
We
it
need to get
signed?
that variance taken care of. That's correct.
It should be fine by Thursday, right?
Yeah, no, it's the approval's tonight, so that's not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
So the variance is secure because the approval was done within the year. But the applicant needs to understand that even though the resolution of approval is being signed, it's a conditioned resolution of approval, and the plans are not going to be signed until that easement is actually recorded and you prove by a submission to the building department that it has been actually filed in the county clerk's office.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So now we will move on to PB 2008, 64 Plains Road, the Discovery Institute. Are people here for the Discovery Institute?
Yeah, yes, Ed Kramer is here.
Okay,
I'm the president of the board of directors for Discovery Institute. And Neil Michael Collier is also here. He's sort of the technical expert. He's a registered architect. and is familiar with the property.
Okay, so why don't you guys give us a little bit of an idea of what you're planning to do, what you want to do, what's the ultimate purpose for this, what's the goal of it, and just kind of give us a rundown on it.
Okay. What we would like to do is subdivide a portion of the Discovery property that has a house on it in order to sell the house in order that we can pay back an outstanding large settlement that we have to pay. So that's the main reason we'd like to do it. There's a hitch in that we have a shared septic system with the house that we're talking about, as well as the rest of the property that has another house on it. There's a sort of a restricted area. I don't think we can have two septic fields. So what we would like to do is propose some sort of maintenance agreement between a purchaser of the house we'd like to subdivide and the Discovery Institute regarding the maintenance and care of the septic field and the septic system, which also includes a pumping station. So that's the general idea of why we're doing it and why we would like to do it.
Okay. Any words from your technical representative?
Yeah, I would just point out that it's an existing system that's been in place for 20 years or so. It's we contacted the Ulster County. I'm contacting the Ulster County Health Department now about any documentation they may need to sign off on it. At the time it was done, it was a replacement system for the two failed in-ground disposal systems, and they were declined to review it because it was a replacement system. We also did a pump system for the schoolhouse that's on the property that was approved by the health department. So it was designed using the same parameters. That's it.
All right. So thank you. We do appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and give us that explanation. We do have some questions that we would like to look at this, but first, Rick, do you want to give us a quick summary and overview?
Sure. There's actually a lot that I think needs to be addressed by the applicant. One, if I might just follow up on what was just said, shared agreements generally between two properties are fraught with problems. One, septic is an unusual thing to have a shared system on, although it's not without precedent. It's usually something that the planning board should look hard at, and I think the planning board could, and it might be best for it to go ahead and get an opinion of a planning board civil engineer to see if there are any problems concerning the shared system or an alternative that might be applicable that might end up better than a shared system. But that's up to the planning board whether they want to seek that advice. This is going to be exempt from referral, and at later on in the meeting, this board can go ahead and type the action as a seeker unlisted action. We have a short form EAF that was provided. Ultimately, a public hearing will be required. What really is on for your consideration tonight is that they have provided a sketch plan in accordance with your code. And that should be either tentatively approved or recommended with modifications in accordance with your code. There's some issues that you come across in looking at this. I think one of the big ones is that the sketch doesn't seem to comport to the prior approved subdivision. but it's hard to tell. And we don't, the village doesn't have a copy of the actual subdivision that was previously filed with the Ulster County clerk. And so I think it's incumbent upon the applicant to get a stamped copy of that filing in the Ulster County clerk's office so that the board can look at this. There are some issues with respect to encroachments. There's some issues as to what was or was not included in that prior subdivision versus what the sketch plan is showing. And I think that's something that's very fundamental. Ulster County doesn't have, in my opinion, the kind of electronic system that would allow the planning board simply to download that approval that exists in some other counties, but it's not easily done in Ulster County. So I think you should rely upon the applicant to go ahead and file proof with the building department here to say this was the subdivision that was filed with a stamped sign, stamp plan on it. The next step that you have, if you think that the sketch plan is good enough to proceed to the next step, is that the applicant would put together what is known as a preliminary plat. Because this is less than, not more than 4 lots of a subdivision plat, they have a waiver provision in your code, which I imagine you should take advantage of, and waive the plat requirements that are not required for lots of more than 4 lot subdivisions, which is the applicant can look at the materials that are going to be required to be put on the preliminary plat if the others are waived. Under section 178-23C1 in the code will list very clearly what you need to have on a preliminary plat if the planning board is willing to go ahead and waive the requirements that would otherwise obtain if you had 4 or more lots. So I think that motion, actually you can make that motion right now. I see no reason not to waive those requirements. So I think what would be in line right now is a motion to waive the preliminary plat requirements that are not required for more than 4 lot subdivisions, and instead provide the details that are listed in section 178-23C1.
Okay, so planning board members, this is a fairly common activity that is done for small subdivisions. As Rick said, not 4 lots, but it does not keep them from having to do other things that are outlined in the specified 178.3. So we are not excusing them from taking actions and from being compliant and from doing a number of other things. It just has some very specific points that if you had a subdivision that was 4 lots or greater, that you would need to go through, which really would not apply to this, where you're just creating 2 lots from one existing. So just want to reassure you there. Any questions on that?
I defer to Neil Michael if he has any questions.
No, again, I would point
qualified.
out,
No,
no question.
Now this is questions from the planning board members.
Okay.
Any questions from any of the planning board members?
Well, John, the only thing I looked at what Corey said, and I agree. I think without some clearer documentations, it's hard for us to make determinations. The one thing that I question with the septic, when you need Board of Health approval?
Yes, and these are areas that we're going to delve into here in just a few moments. So all we're dealing with now is the ones that would eliminate him having to take on some questions and proofs for something that would be of a greater than 4 or greater lots. So once we get past that, then we're going to dive back into some of these questions that we have. I have a list of them. There was an outline of some questions, and I'd like to have the board weigh in on some of those as well. So right now, what I would like to do is I'm sorry, go ahead. Nope. What I'd like to do is I'm going to have a motion to waive the preliminary plot requirements of 17822 and permit submission of a plat with the details as required in 17823. And this is for the 17822 is for subdivisions with 4 or more lots. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion is approved. So we have waived that preliminary plat requirement specific to 17822. So now going back to some of the issues, as we did talk about, when comparing the sketch plan to the tax map, the sketch map appears to be taking a triangle portion of land from an adjacent lot that is not part of this application. There was a prior lot alteration for the property a few years back, and the final map indicates that such triangular portion was combined with the larger portion. Yes, while we would think that the tax map would be updated by this time, what we would like to have is from you is a map that has a tax stamp on it that you can file as proof of the building department plan, so that we can assure that indeed that that triangular portion is not part of a previous subdivision. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it clear with you, Michael?
Yeah, I use the tax map from the Ulster County website, which I guess doesn't have that triangle.
Yeah, that may be true. I just want to make sure that we don't run into any errors or problems later on down the road. So that will be very helpful to get. It does look from the 2016 aerial map that the existing house would be on the new lot, might encroach onto the other subdivision, or if the triangular portion mentioned above is part of the property, it might encroach then on the setback. So we do need some insight on the status of the existing property and location of the home, of the house proposed to be subdivided onto the new lot.
I'm not sure I understand the question. The encroachment would have been there without the triangular piece being added.
Didn't we have something from Corey earlier on the? Alana, did you remember getting something from Corey on this?
John, did you see Corey's comments that came through on Alana's email this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm looking for that right now. That was the one at 3:49 p.m. So Corey says sketch plan doesn't match up with the tax map. That's what we just read. Says reached out to Ed Kramer, the property representative, that expressed concern about the fact that all the information does not appear to match with each other. Also told him we would need more direct clear representation of what was going on. Without clear documents, the request doesn't appear to make sense. So, Corey, that is not really resolved. Ed, can you get with Corey and discuss with him the encroachment so we can get that resolved?
Yes, he did call me this afternoon and we spoke briefly. I was not exactly sure what he was referring to. I know that in the last 5 years, I believe it, we had a piece of land owned by the person next door, Helen Musamichi, who gave us more land in front of that building as a parking area. I suspect that's what you might be referring to.
Yeah, this is Neil. It's the same issue as the tax map not being updated. Without that triangle piece, that corner of that house did encroach on the property line.
Okay, so you'll clarify that when you resubmit
Yes.
the map. A couple of other things, John, that along the lines of what to put on the preliminary plat, if I might.
Mm-hmm.
One is that there are some sheds and other structures that are going to be remaining on the larger lot. And you need to have dimensions on there to make sure that those shed and other structures are compliant with the necessary setbacks. Also, there is some easements that should be noted on your preliminary plat when you put that together, an easement and private road agreement and a utility easement. And pursuant to section 178-21B4, these should be included on the preliminary plat.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, Rick, those easements, and you've got those notes on those easements that we can use for the what I would like to do is to when this meeting is over, is to be able to provide the applicant with a list of those things that they definitely need. Can we do that, Alana?
Yes.
Brief but good. Okay. So Alana's taking notes on that. Now on to the septic system. We want to have some discussion about the septic system.
My suggestion was that you get some input from a civil engineer for the planning board as to the efficacy of continuing with this shared septic plan and what problems it may or may not cause, and whether or not there's some other mechanism that the applicant hasn't thought of that he or she might be able to suggest to the planning board to deal with this, because you try to avoid things such as shared amenities, but certainly shared septic is something that will pose a nightmare going forward, potentially anyway.
Do we have a civil engineer that we regularly refer to?
Well, I've used Andy Willingham.
Andy has, doesn't Andy have applicants before the planning board? So
Yes, he does. Oh, he can't do it then? Okay.
Yeah, that's a disqualification. But Alana, I think you know who we would normally use for.
Was Dan Kohler, is Dan Kohler a civil engineer from Hudson Land Design? Or am I thinking of?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I'm trying to think of like off the top of my head who's civil engineer. But that's something I can definitely just find out tomorrow. That's not.
All right, I'll throw one out to you who I've used a lot. His name is Bob Hagopian. He's out of Kingston. He actually used to work for the Department of Health, and he designed septic systems.
Can you send that note forward to Alana so that we can see that, and be sure and copy everybody on the.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Is that Raquel, Zach, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I'd really like to get a second opinion from a technical expert.
Okay.
And I guess related to the septic will there have to be a new well on the property too? And what is the water?
No, it's village water.
Okay, right.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Okay. So what we have then are a list of some questions, some items Alana has of things that we're going to want on the preliminary plat, so that we can begin to move forward on that with the applicant next time. Is Is that correct?
I actually have another item I'd like to add to that. I'm concerned about the lot coverage and the driveway and the percentage of this very small lot that will be impermeable surface. So I would like to see the driveway and the turnaround and the dimensions of those, as well as the dimensions of the existing structures, because there is code that relates to that we need to take into consideration.
Now, with the agreement between Ms. Masamuki on the driveway between the two, Rick, does that come into play with that because it's previously been settled?
I don't know that it's been settled at all. I just don't know one way or the other.
Okay.
But I think that you should require the applicant to go ahead and, along the lines of what Zach was talking about in the details, is to show actually the ultimate full driveway, which will lead to the home, where the parking spaces are going to be, because that's also going to be dependent upon the number of bedrooms. There are 3 spaces required per dwelling, up to 3 bedrooms and 1 space for each additional bedroom. So those specifics should be on there, as well as what Zach was talking about, whether or not there's going to be a permeable nature to this, or whether or not we need to deal with any stormwater issues.
Okay.
There's also one other thing that's required, not on the plans, but under your code. The applicant needs to request written recommendations of the village engineer and the superintendent of public works, and submit that to the planning board prior to any public hearing. That's in accordance with 178-13B of the code. And the only other thing I have, John, is that the EAF that was submitted, we're asking for it to be revised and to be done with the digitally with the DEC mapper. There's several questions. I count 1, 2, 5 of them that needs to be filled in with respect to the mapper that simply doesn't get the information if you're not doing it online.
Okay.
I'll for the applicant's benefit, I'll go ahead and just identify those questions that need to be addressed in a revised EAF. Question 3A and 3C, presently they're blank. Question 3B indicates 0 acres will be disturbed, but it looks like a driveway is going to be required, so it needs to revisit that. Question 12B, according to the mapper, should be yes. Question 13A, the mapper says yes with respect to wetlands. Also, this would change the answer to question 13B. And finally, question 16 should be yes in accordance with the DEC mapper. So if they could go ahead and revise that EAF and resubmit it to the board.
Okay. So so we're going to hold off then on declaring it an unlisted action and taking the lead agency until we get that back?
I think that you can take the initial step because you have enough information in the EAF to go ahead and type the action as an unlisted action. Given, however, a statement from the applicant earlier that they have inquired of the Department of Health as to whether or not the Department of Health has to sign off on the proposal to have a shared septic, I think you ought to postpone assuming lead agency.
Okay.
Because we don't know whether or not the Department of Health is going to be an involved agency, and then you'd have to circulate a notice of intent to the
The Department of Health.
Health. So we can wait on that part.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, Raquel, I think I cut you off on something.
No. I was just gonna say, I thought that we could move forward with declaring it unlisted action.
okay. All right, so with that in mind, let's propose that, let's get a recommendation, a proposal that we declare ourselves as the lead agency.
No, right now it's just going to be typing the action as an unlisted action.
I'm sorry, typing the actions unlisted action. My apologies there. So, motion to type the action for the PD 2008 64 Plains Road as an unlisted action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have listed as an unlisted action. So we're going to need to kind of summarize and get a lot of these issues on paper so that we can get it to the applicant. And once we get to the applicant, we'll be able to kind of move forward.
Alana, if you want to initially put that together and want to pass it by me, and I'll check with some of my notes to try to make sure it's as complete as possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was already gonna do that.
Okay.
Happy to help.
And then, yeah, then let me see it. And we'll get everyone else who's on the board to look at it, see if there's anything that we need to include to make sure that we have everything specific for the applicant to do that. Okay. So with that in mind, we're kind of at a stopping point. Applicants, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
I don't.
Okay. So Alana will get this together. Like she said, she is back in the office on Thursday. So hopefully she is very timely. Hopefully she'll be able to get that out to you reasonably soon. And then we can press forward with the Discovery Institute. Okay.
All right. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you. We do appreciate you taking the time to visit with us.
I appreciate your consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So that leaves us next with PB 2009, 5 Taylor Street, Eve Walter. Eve, are you still there?
I am.
Sorry, I thought I had it turned off. It's the spam hour when I get calls from all over the world asking me to buy something. My apologies there. All right, Eve, tell us a little bit about what you are trying to do.
I'm expanding my porch. And as a side note, the change in 21223 that Bill, Corey, and I and Rick did a year ago would have meant that this didn't need to come in front of the planning board. So I urge you all to go to the village board and have them please just approve it already. So anyway, just expanding my porch.
There you go. Okay. There was a reference to a front yard variance. Corey reviewed the submission. It doesn't appear that there's any encroachment. Property still within the threshold. Do not identify the need for any variance based on the joy of working at home, right, folks? Does not identify a need for any variance based on the information. So this is a type 2 action. It is construction, expansion, or placement of minor accessory appurtenance, residential structures, including patios and decks. That's exempt from referral to under the agreement with the Ulster County Planning Board as one family. And a public hearing is required. So I guess what we will need to do is to make a motion to declare this as a type 2 action.
No motioned.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. With that in mind, we're going to set a public hearing. Alana, when is the next available public hearing?
Yeah, so Eve, this is up to you. If you want to, I think you need to get the mailers out and the sign posted by like the end of this week, and then you could do the public hearing for the 15th. But if you need more time, then you'd have to do the 1st October meeting. So it's kind of up to you and your schedule.
I can take care of this tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I'll get it out to you tomorrow.
Okay, so we have a public hearing then set for September 15th. Okay.
Chair, can I make a request if you would consider?
Please.
Would you consider the possibility of having a resolution prepared should no issues come up in the public hearing, that you could move forward with the resolution at that point?
Yes, I think we can do that.
Perfect, thank you.
And John, just request a motion for the public hearing to set it.
Yes.
So
Okay,
motion.
so a motion for the public hearing, yes, to be on 9:15.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it is set. And then we'll talk with Rick about getting that resolution, should there be no objection to what you're doing.
This wouldn't be for me to draft up. This is a no attorney review, so.
I'll write it, just kidding.
John, I can just send you the draft resolution where you're essentially just like filling in the blanks.
Okay, let's do that.
So I'll send that to you tomorrow.
Okay. Very good. All right, Eve, thank you very much.
Thank you. I miss you all. I really do. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So with that all done, we're pretty much then at the end of our meeting. Look at anything else we have there. So really the next thing that we need is a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate you guys taking the time. I know that it's, it's with the training that we've spent a couple of hours here, and what we're trying to do is to make the meetings as efficient